Hey guys, it's Wes of Cleanstone Construction. We're here. We're going to make a video talking about getting ready for a concrete driveway. And we're going to walk through some of the steps of planning elevations and getting string lines up, getting ready for our form boards. So we'll try to take our time, kind of step through this a little bit. Hopefully you'll find some information on it helpful. Let's do a quick little scan of the job. We got a lot of our base set up already, not completely ready, but we did a little bit of work yesterday trying to get prepared. Sometimes you just got to get in there and start moving stuff around, and every job's different when it comes to planning elevations. You've got to take a look at the existing landscape, take a look at the existing pitch. We've got different grades of the ground that we have to contend with, because a lot of times we don't want to completely regrade the entire yard. Sorry, I've got my executive producer back there touching buttons. So yeah, when planning elevations, really one of the most important things is that you don't want water to collect. So it's good to have a plan. That's why I like to take notes and like to plan out the elevations. We'll just do I'll just show this real quickly. This is our driveway. The intent here is just to really show you that it's good to go into it with a plan. So essentially we're pitching our driveway towards the street, but it's going to pitch a little bit towards us, and then it's going to pitch back the other way to go out into the street. And again, that had to do with taking a look at the existing elevations and the levels of the ground. Sometimes it's clear cut, you can pitch it all in one direction. In this case, we kind of have it going in two directions, which is fine, because one, it's a driveway, so the slopes aren't as noticeable as, let's say, like a patio. And two, again, just as long as the water's not collecting, that's one of the main things that we have to avoid. It's starting to rain on us, so we'll see how much of this we can get done. Yeah, so let's go over here. Executive producer, can you join us, please? So a couple things that I want to point out real quick. We've got our zip level, okay, which is great for taking elevations. There's other ways, tools that you can use. We like the zip level. We use a laser level too on certain aspects of the job, but here we're primarily using the zip level. I've got a couple 100-foot tapes out. One of the most important parts of the job is layout, making sure that in this case we wanted a nice square driveway because we're doing a stamped concrete, and if your driveway or your patio or whatever you're doing is not square, when you start to do patterns, they can start to run off. Some are more noticeable than others. We haven't picked out a pattern for this yet, but we just want to be playing with a nice square driveway. And what was here before was asphalt, and the asphalt people, they don't care if it's square because it's just blacktop. You can't tell the difference if it's a couple inches out of square, which in this case the original driveway was. So you can kind of see along this edge here, you can kind of see where we had to cut out, I don't know, a foot to bring it over in order to we wanted to square it with the house. The road here is closely square to the house, which makes sense. Typically, you have all these houses, they'll try to square them to the road, but it's not perfect, so we had to pick something to square it with, and in this case we used the house. So you can see we've already got some grade stakes set up all throughout the project. We've done some work on our elevations. Like I said, I've got my elevation plan here. I know where everything's supposed to be. Where we set a 0 reference for our zip level. And where you choose 0 is not as important, as long as you know it's always in reference to something. In this case, a lot of times we pick either a high point or a low point, because that makes sense, because then everything is typically plus or minus depending on where we're trying to get everything pitched to. So this point right here is a high point, so this was our 0. So everything else is in reference to this point, and so the more negative we go, we can kind of envision where the water is going to go. Okay, so this point, these 2 grade stakes up here are both set at 0. So what we're going to do now is get string lines for our concrete forms. I like to do this method. I learned it on YouTube. It's a pretty foolproof method for making sure that you have something to put your form boards up to. Form boards are never straight, and you'll see when we start doing them that they're bowed and crowned, and having a string line up that you know is straight is a good reference when we start putting up our form boards, and it'll make more sense when we start doing it. So for the method I'm getting ready to show you, it's very important to have your dimensions on the outside of your grade stakes, and to have your string lines on the outside of your grade stakes too, because again, and you'll see that when you start putting up your form boards, you want the string line to be right up against the form board. And if you do it on the inside and your form board on the outside, then it's not as accurate. Okay. So let's go ahead and we're going to double check our 0 reference. We do that a couple times. Aaron, can you come be my? And unfortunately, our zip level decided to break on us yesterday. Still reading accurate, but it's just a little messed up. All right, perfect. So you can see that we're at 0, or very close to it, 1/10 of an inch. So we've already got our stake in the right location, so now we're just worried about getting our string line at the right elevation. So let's go ahead. It's starting to rain, so I'm going to cover up a little bit. Let's go ahead and see where we're at right now. All right, so we got to go down, 1.5 inches or so. So all right, there we go, perfect. Okay, so then the next point we've got, which we've already got measured out, which again, going back to our elevation plan, is 20 feet away from that. So right now we're looking for -11. So we'll go ahead and get out our marker, and let's see if we can find, this is gonna need to be on the outside. Where are we at right there?
Go down.
Let me make sure I'm not lying. It seems too low. Be telling a fib.
I think it's -9.
-8. All right. Okay. So we're gonna mark that. We got our string to the outside. We're gonna loop it around twice. That could have been tighter. All right, there we go. Now down here, we got to meet up with the with the street, so we really didn't need to pick an elevation here. It's not minus 24 though, but we can just kind of see that, you know, our form board's going to need to meet up with the street right there. So I'll go ahead and mark that. Again, staying to the outside. Okay, all right. Now, John, you just kind of show them that you can see we got a nice straight line here. And that's going to be really good when we go to put up our form boards, okay? Now, one thing I just want to show you, when you're doing distances, you know, that are this long, you really need to take a mathematical approach to finding square. You know, sometimes you'll see people using what they call a BAS, big ass square. But anytime you're doing layout, you know, for a construction job, you know, doing the math using the a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which is Pythagorean theorem. That way you know that, you know, it's correct. So we already did the math, and we've got our 100-foot tapes, which are really good. What I like about them is that they have decimal points on, or these particular tapes, they have decimal points, okay? And that helps out because when you do math, often if it's going to give you an answer in decimal points, not the English system. They have construction calculators which will convert it, but that's just way too much work for me. I just rather keep it in decimal form, and then this way I don't have to try to convert. When my calculator told me that it was 47 feet, 0.72 inches, I don't have to convert it. I don't need to figure out what, or 0.27, what 0.27 inches is. I can just read it right off my tape. So we've got our hypotenuse, which is the long side, and we've got our adjacent side here, and what it was it was supposed to be 40 feet was what we used, and then it needed to be 44.72, okay, which gives us right about here. So that's good. We did the same thing on the other side. Check to make sure that our diagonals were the same. If your diagonals are the same, then you've got a square box. If they're not the same, then something's off. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna leave this side alone for right now, and we'll go ahead and start putting boards up on this side. And I think that will give a pretty good tutorial of how to do the job, the rest of the job. Aaron, can you go ahead and put that up in case it starts raining? All right, so what we want to do is we want to check and look for the bow in the board. Okay, may or may not be easy to tell, but it's going that way. And we also want to see if the board's crowned. Okay, so there's our bow. I don't know, crowns are sometimes harder for me to tell, but we want the bow on the outside and the crown up. And the reason is that once we put these up, it's easier to push in a bow and set a grade form stake, and it's easier to push down on a crown, and again for your form stake, than it is to try to do it the other way. So this is aligned with the edge of the brick. You know, sometimes it can move a little bit, which sucks, but we're gonna leave this board a little bit long so that when we come here, we have something to run this form board into. So we'll just kind of line this up here, get an idea of where our grade stake or form stake needs to go. All right, we'll start with 2.
Uh-oh.
It's an 8-pound sledge. It's a little bit easier if you cut the handle off, but I just bought this, so haven't had time to modify it. But it really comes in handy because sometimes you just run into ground that is a beast, and your 3-pound sledge is just not going to do it. So we've got our impact. We've got, I think these are some 3-inch construction screws. Star tip, which is, you know, makes it nice. It's going to grip a lot better when you go into your forms. See a lot of guys use duplex nails and grade stakes, and I don't know, I've always found it more challenging to use the nails. The screws I feel like just give me a lot more accuracy, and I just work with them better. So these are the duplex nails. They get all bent up and stuff. I actually reuse these screws lots of times. So, all right, so now you can see here we've got our string on the outside. Okay, so that gives us our reference to be able to set our board. All right, and it's always better to go a little bit high, because then I can bang down my grade stake a little bit, where it's just going low, trying to pull it out. It's a lot more difficult. I think these are going to be okay. All right, so we'll set the other one, and then we'll make some adjustments. All right. So we can see we're touching the line up here, almost touching, not touching here. That's that bow that I was talking about, which we'll want to fix. So first thing, I'm gonna just tweak this a little bit, get it a little bit closer to the elevation. Okay, so now we just need to fix this. So once you get the form board in, if you hit behind it with the ground, usually that's enough to get it to push. You can see we're pretty good. This is a really bad form board, but that's pretty good. That's definitely not something that you're going to notice once the concrete is actually poured. So let's just take a step back. I'm going to look at it again. Feel pretty good about it. Might be a little bit high. All right. That's our first board, okay? And we can see when we go to do this one, that, you know, we'll make a cut right here. We'll get our square out. We'll make a cut right here, and then that will butt into here. We'll put a screw or two in there, a couple stakes, and that we'll have this edge nice and easy. We'll do one more board, and then I think that'll be good. And then we'll check in and do some videos of the actual concrete being poured and stamping, and try to let you guys see what it looks like at the end. Hey Aaron, will you take a shovel and knock out some of this, please? You can see we've already got a bunch of crush run in here, compacted. We're gonna bring in another layer of 57 to give us our final 4 inches of sub base underneath the concrete. You can buy these at Home Depot or Lowe's. I like them because you don't have to cut them. They're not too expensive, $9 for a set. You know, sometimes trying to save wood and recut wood, and I don't know, you spend more time and money. So, although I do give kudos to those people that they somehow figure out a way to reuse everything. And I know one guy, he's got, I feel like, the same set of duplex nails since he was probably a kid, and he makes it work. So very frugal, but I haven't seemed to find a way to make that work.
What are we doing here?
All right, so right now we're just butting up the 2 different pieces, okay? We have our stakes set far enough apart that we can put a piece of board here and really give it, you know, it may not be necessary. A lot of times it depends on how solid your ground is. and whether or not your boards are moving on you, but it is best practice to probably bridge it just to make sure that if someone accidentally steps on it or something, that it's not going to go anywhere. It was 70 degrees yesterday, it's 40 today. That's Virginia for you. All right, you can see we got a big bow here. The other thing I'm gonna point out is this point right here, we've got two different slopes. So we've got a constant slope from that grade stake to this grade stake, and then we got a constant slope, but they're different. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to cut a board here, okay, because we're going to have a change in pitch. And if we just try to do it with one board, I guess a lot of it depends on how much of a change it is. So we might look at it and make the decision not to cut two different boards, but it's going to depend on how much it goes off down. You can kind of see that it goes off down there quite a bit. So we are going to go ahead and cut a different board, just to make sure that we're doing things as accurate as possible. All right, well, I think that that's good. You should get the gist. You know, we're just repeating what we did, so we go all the way around, double checking our work, and then eventually making our way over here where we've got a curved walkway. So we'll check in later with some more videos.